Now, one of my favorite laptops in 2023 was the Lenovo Yoga Pro 9i, or otherwise known as the Slim Pro 9i. I know it gets confusing, but I'm happy to report that this year they're just calling it the Yoga Pro 9i. And before you ask me, no, it is not a convertible. It's not a 360-degree 16-inch laptop. It is a clamshell laptop in every sense of the word. It also has a nice CPU-GPU combination. It's running the Meteor Lake processor, the Intel Core Ultra 9, the 185H. It also has the RTX 4050, but you can get it with even higher graphics options depending on your region and so forth. But I am very impressed with this laptop as far as what improvements they've made year over year. Although we're gonna find out, is the performance any better than last year, or did it take a step backwards? But the overall package has been pretty impressive, and it's one of my favorite laptops so far in 2024. We're gonna get into it, especially with its mini LED display, which is spectacular, with a really great port selection and the overall good performance. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the Lenovo Yoga Pro 9i, brand new for 2024. Coming up.
Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Lenovo. I'm not being sponsored by Lenovo. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Lenovo is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from Lenovo, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, you can head on over to Lenovo's website. It has a starting price of $1,482. Prices tested here today comes in at $1,699, and that will be available over at Best Buy starting on May 9th, 2024. I'm recording this video on April 24th, 2024, so it is coming soon. As soon as that is available, I will leave a link in the description below. But in the meantime, you can customize it over at Lenovo's website, and I will put links for everything in the description below. So without further ado, you know the drill, folks. Let's get this out of the box. So here we have some documentation. Looks like there's some notice on the Copilot function here, the startup guide, warranty information, standard fare, yada, yada, yada. You know the drill on that. So you get your power cord right here. Power charger here. Now it's going to have the proprietary connection that we know from Lenovo. A 170 watt power adapter that you can see here. And then of course the unit itself here. All right, so we have the Luna Gray, and this, of course, also comes in the title teal. Right off the bat, you'll notice this 5 megapixel camera over here. There's a little communication bar there. The build seems very solid so far. Wow, this is an all-metal design, and I like the Luna Gray. It's going to show the least amount of fingerprints. At least that's the hope. There has some yoga branding right there, and then, of course, you can see it here. The underside is right here. You can see here, very, very nice. And again, there's some venting here on this lid on the bottom. And it says Lenovo X Power there. So pretty good. And let's do the useless test of the day as we know it. Now, one of the things with this communication bar, this reverse notch, as I like to call it, is pretty nice. And yes, you can open it with one finger. Plastic-free, worry-free planet. That's good to see. Let's put it on kilograms for just the unit alone. 2.139 kilograms, and that would be 4 pounds, 11.5 ounces. And with the power cord and the power charger, a total travel weight of 2.67 kilograms, and that would be 5 pounds, 14.4 ounces. This certainly has a little bit of heft to it, so we'll get into all that and more. But of course, pretty decent weight considering you are packing a pretty nice punch under the hood. At least that's what it's on paper it is. We'll find out, of course, when we look at the numbers. All right, let's check out the port selection, and it's a pretty good one here. So on the left side, you get your power connector. That's Lenovo's proprietary connection for the power in. And then you have an HDMI port. But last year, remember, it was 1.4. That was disappointing. They've upgraded it to 2.1 this time around. That's a welcome improvement. Then you get a USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2 port. It is full function. And next to that is a Thunderbolt 4 that is also full function. And you get a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. Now, moving over to the right side is the E shutter switch for the webcam. We like to see that. A full-size SD card reader, although the cards stick out about 3/4 of the way. They're not sitting flush with the unit, but I like having a full-size SD card reader, so I'm not going to ding them too hard here. Next to that are two USB-A ports. Of course, we like to see legacy ports. And finally, you have your power button to round it out. I would say all in all, a very good port selection. Well done there. Now, all video outputs are connected via the integrated GPU, so the GeForce GPU doesn't have to run all the time, say when you're using an external monitor. That's done to reduce the power consumption. Now, for those that want to upgrade the RAM yourself, unfortunately, you won't be able to do that because it is soldered into the motherboard. Not a big surprise here in 2024. It's the same on last year's model, same here. Now, this has 32 gigabytes of soldered memory. It's LPDDR5X RAM, but it is running at the very fast 74-6700 megahertz. That's up from last year, a welcome improvement right there. It is running in dual channel mode for those wondering, and there are certain regions that will apparently have up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, but I was only able to see 32 here in the United States. I'm not sure what's going on. I'll ask Lenovo if they plan on offering one with 64 gigabytes. Now here, year over year, you can see the internals, and again, 2 SSD slots according to the specs here, so I like seeing that. So if you need to expand out the storage, you can. Now the included 1 terabyte SSD had some excellent reads and writes, certainly fast enough for what you need this laptop to do here in 2024. I love having that 2 M.2 SSD slots. That's a big win in my book. Now, when it comes to wireless, you're looking at Wi-Fi 6E and a Bluetooth 5.3 combo card. That is soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user. So no Wi-Fi 7 for you. Obviously, that's going to be a little disappointing, a little less future-proof. But as far as the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, both have been working flawlessly. No issues with either one. Okay, let's talk about the keyboard, and I think it's a really good one. It's got 1.5 millimeters of key travel, so that's good for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. Good tactility, good feedback. It also has a numeric keypad, so if you want to crunch numbers, a nicely laid out keyboard is here, of course, when it comes to numeric keypad, although it will move the touchpad off center, although not a big deal. You'll get used to it pretty quickly, but the overall takeaways is pretty comfortable. It's got a nice backlight on it, so if you want to get work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment, you can with this keyboard. It's got the smile-shaped keys we know from Lenovo's Yoga line, so everything's there, worked really well. And it has a really nicely sized glass touchpad. It's not a haptic touchpad, but it is a very responsive touchpad nonetheless. For two-finger scrolling and doing all the gestures, everything worked very well. I've had no complaints at all with this touchpad. Okay, let's talk about the star of the show, and there's no doubt about it. That is the display, the mini LED display here. They're calling it the ProSight Pro, and of course, it is pro in every sense. 16 inches, 3.2K resolution, 3200 by 2000, 165 hertz refresh rate, 16:10 aspect ratio, and it has really great brightness. People, I measured 669 nits for standard dynamic range, and it can peak over 1200 nits when you're watching high dynamic range content. It's a Dolby Vision display, so watching that HDR content in Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been fantastic. It's got excellent coverage of the color gamut. It's very color accurate, so if you're going to do content creation in Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, in Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, this will certainly get the job done. Now, I didn't find a lot of glare or reflection. I think that's due to the high brightness that this has, so that's been pretty good. It has a nice anti-glare coating on it, I think. And it also has pretty good refresh rate here. It's actually really good, 165 hertz, and that, of course, will give you a little bit more smooth, fluid experience. And it's also a touchscreen display. That means you can navigate the OS with your finger, pinch to zoom. Everything worked very well. That's a real bonus here, in my opinion. Now, this is a really nice display overall, and I think they hit a home run once again with this mini LED panel. So this is the camera on the Lenovo Yoga Pro 9i here for 2024. It's a 5 megapixel IR camera. What does IR mean? Well, it means you can log in with face recognition with Windows Hello. It's infrared. And of course, this does have a shutter switch. It's an E-shutter switch located on the right of the unit. That gives you more security and privacy. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is running the Intel Core Ultra 9, the 185H processor. And as you can see on the Cinebench 2024 CPU single core score, 109 did actually pretty well for these Meteor Lake laptops. Of course, not good as the MacBook Pro, but it's good nonetheless. And it did very well in the multi-core, scoring 1,095, coming in shy of the 1,666 in that very expensive MacBook Pro, much more expensive. We'll get into that in a moment. But when I ran the Geekbench 6 to compare it to last year's model year over year, we're seeing less single core, less multi-core, and that has been the theme here with the Meteor Lake here in 2024 over the 13th gen from last year. Slightly better OpenCL GPU score, 80,182 compared to the 78,514. And when I compared the Geekbench 6 results to the Galaxy Book 4 Ultra from Samsung, which I think was ultimately disappointing, especially for that very high price point of $2,400, this had better single core, had better multi-core performance, and had slightly better GPU performance at a lot less money. For $1,699 here, you're going to get a lot more bang for the buck, especially the price to performance ratio. It's a lot better than the Book 4 Ultra. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024 to compare it to the Galaxy Book 4 Ultra, this had better single core performance, 109 to 98, better multi-core performance, 1,095 versus 796, and a better GPU score, 7983 versus 7807. Again, illustrating just how much better of a value the Yoga Pro 9i is over the Galaxy Book 4 Ultra. And when I ran the Geekbench 6 results versus the MacBook Pro with the M3 Pro that has a 12-core CPU, 18-core GPU, 18 gigabytes of RAM, that had better single core. That's not a surprise. We know that. But it also had slightly better multi-core performance, but less GPU performance. So where you're going to see the big gain here is in the GPU, obviously, than the MacBook Pro. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024, the MacBook Pro, with no surprise, has a better single-core score, 139 over 109, and it had less multi-core in that result, of course, 1,095 versus 1,059, and it had less GPU performance than the Yoga Pro 9i. That was pretty interesting as well. That one is a $2,500 laptop versus this, a $1,700 laptop. And for the hell of it, I wanted to see how it would do against the M3 Max version of the MacBook Pro 16. That comes in at $4,000, better single core, better multi-core, and better GPU performance. But when you really think about it, $1,700 versus $4,000, we're not seeing that big of a difference in performance here to warrant such a price difference between the two. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below. Now, what about the very expensive Dell XPS 16, the 9640 that I reviewed? That one comes in at $3,400. That had less single core performance, that had less multi-core performance, but it did have better GPU performance because it is running the RTX 4070, although limited to 60 watts. This has the 4050 with 100 watts of power. So just keep that in mind. Pretty interesting result. And when I ran the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmark to see how this would do with video editing compared to something like the XPS 16 here, you're looking at a better overall score of 1610 versus 1517, a better 4K media score, 120 to 113, but not quite as good GPU effects, and that has to do with the 4050 versus the 4070. And the overall fusion score is actually better on the Yoga Pro 9i, which comes in half the price of the XPS 16. Now, I wouldn't characterize this as a gaming laptop per se, but you definitely can get some playable frame rates on this thanks to the RTX 4050 with 100-watt GDP. And of course, if you lower some of the settings, you can get some playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles. It was very capable. And great news when it comes to thermal throttling. It got a 99.6% passing score on the TimeSpy stress test, meaning it detected pretty much no thermal throttling under load. That's great. Now, when it comes to the surface temperatures, I ran it under heavy load, and I didn't notice anything getting overly hot where you place your fingers. It did get around 50 degrees or so Celsius above the keyboard, below the display where the heat dissipates by the vent over there. Not a big deal. Again, where you place your fingers on the keyboard, not overly hot. In fact, it stayed relatively cool. And on the underside, reaching maybe 46 degrees Celsius at some points, but really for the most part, stayed cool overall, even under heavy load. So they did a good job in terms of the surface temperatures. Now, one thing you will have to contend with is the fan noise under load, reaching as high as 54, maybe 55 decibels at some point, but that is definitely noticeable. But that's where you're really pushing it maximum load. But when you're doing everyday tasks in the balance mode, the issue of fan was not really there. In fact, it stayed relatively quiet for the most part doing Microsoft Office, email, and web browsing. Now, another area where I'm seeing an improvement year over year is going to be battery life. And we're seeing that in general with the Meteor Lake laptops, and this is no exception. So last year, when I ran the PC Mark 10 Modern Office test, it did 5 hours and 14 minutes. That's been improved to 8 hours and 33 minutes here for 2024. When I ran the video playback, it did 8 hours and 6 minutes last year. Now I got just shy of 10 hours, another improvement right there. So I would say all in all, an improvement in battery life year over year. We like to see that. Probably the biggest area that I'm seeing an improvement is in the speakers. These are pretty amazing speakers, 6-speaker system with Dolby Atmos to help with the spatial audio. And I was actually blown away on how loud they get, how full and rich they are, and how it did against the MacBook Pro. Now, I do have the MacBook Pro 14 here, and if you saw that live unboxing or caught the replay, you noticed that it actually was pretty good. In fact, it might even be better than the MacBook Pro, but I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. This has got to be one of the best Windows laptops, if not the best laptop when it comes to the audio for the speaker system, but I want you to be the judge, so let's give them a listen. We'll listen to this one first and then the MacBook Pro, and then you tell me what you think in the comment section below. We'll also compare it to one of the best ones that we saw in 2024. That would be the Asus ROG Zephyrus G16, also a 6-speaker system as well. Again, I want to know what you think. Let me know when we're done. All right, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the Lenovo Yoga Pro 9i here for 2024? I like the amazing mini LED panel here with the 165 hertz refresh rate. I like the good GPU, the CPU performance, very good. I like the comfortable keyboard. I like the best-in-class speakers. Wow, they really blew me away. I like the almost silent in everyday use mode, but when you are running this under heavy load, you will notice that fan noise. It is very noticeable, and it can can be distracting. I like the fact that it has a full-size SD card reader. I like the 5 megapixel webcam. I like the two M.2 2280 SSD slots. I like the fact that it now has advanced Optimus. It now has HDMI 2.1. It's more affordable than the MacBook Pro, more affordable than the XPS 16. It has improved battery life year over year. It also has faster RAM than last year's model. The negatives, as I mentioned, noisy fans under heavy load. The RAM is not upgradable. PWM detected. Some screen wobble when you're typing. And the Meteor Lake is slightly less performant than the 13th gen processor, but although it is more efficient and gives you better battery life. But I think at the end of the day, this is probably one of the best laptops, especially in the 16-inch category where you are going to do content creation and stuff like that. This will certainly be an editor's choice, scoring 93%, earning this an award that I think is well deserved here. And kudos to Lenovo for making such an awesome product.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.